The $1 million defamation lawsuit between the state's most powerful politicians. Federal MP Clive Palmer is suing the Premier for saying that the mining magnate tried to buy the state government. This week, Campbell Newman fired back, lodging his legal defence with the Supreme Court. It makes sensational claims about an alleged meeting between Mr Palmer and the Deputy Premier Jeff Seeney. Mr Palmer says Jeff Seeney's version of events is a fabrication and invited the government to go to the Police or Crime and Misconduct Commission if they had any concerns. Mr Seeney joined me in the studio earlier. Jeff Seeney, Campbell Newman lodged his defence to Clive Palmer's defamation action, and a lot of it relies upon a meeting you apparently had with Clive Palmer. What happened at this meeting?
Well, that was when the relationship between Clive Palmer and our LNP government started to break down. Clive Palmer wanted special treatment on the basis that he'd been a supporter of our government. He wanted to bypass the proper processes, and we weren't prepared to do that.
He apparently asked for all of your staff to leave the office.
That's right.
And then he allegedly prepared a draft bill about the Galilee Basin. And what did that bill say?
Well, I didn't read it, of course, because I rejected his approach immediately. But he explained to me that this was a draft bill that would give him the exclusive right to build a port and a railway and have control of the Galilee Basin. And he believed he should have that in exchange for the support that he'd given us in getting elected. I rejected that completely, and so I didn't even read it. I pushed it back across the table and told him that that wasn't the way we would be doing business, that we would do business through the proper processes, and from that point on, he has gone on to start his own party because he couldn't get us to do what he wanted to do. So he's gone on and started his own party, and we still continue not to do business that way.
Do you remember the form of words that he used to you?
Well, I've filed that with the court, Matt, and I think it's probably, I'm pretty limited about how much I can talk about it, but
What impression did it leave you with?
It was very clear that he believed he was entitled to special treatment because of the support that he'd given our government. He talked about the support that he'd given us and the fact that he had a lot more money to give in the future. He talked about campaign funds and the fact that he supported people, supported candidates that understood business. They were his words. So the implications were very, very plain.
And what were those implications?
That he wanted special treatment. He wanted us, our government, to act inappropriately, to make decisions.
Corruptly?
I believe it would have been corrupt. Yes, I believe it would have been corrupt to make decisions in that way. We've gone through a long process since then to determine where the ports and the railways are going to be in the Galilee Basin. Clive Palmer wanted to bypass all of that and just for us to give the rights to him. And
so how seriously did you view what he was trying to do?
Well, I rejected it completely and told him that that wasn't the way that our government would do business. You have to remember this was in the very early days of our government. This was
April 2012, apparently.
Yeah, so it's we were elected in March, so it's very soon after we got elected.
And you told the Premier?
Yes, certainly told the Premier a number of times, because after that the relationship started to deteriorate, and when people were trying to understand why Clive Palmer was so antagonistic towards our government, I explained that this was the reason why.
And did the Premier share your view that this was possibly corrupt?
Oh, absolutely. I think he certainly shared my view that this was completely inappropriate. This wasn't the way that our government would do business, and we had to make that clear right from the start. We were a new government that was just elected. We were making it very clear that the processes of government would be done properly, and there would be no favours for anyone.
And at what point were you going to report it to the CMC or the police?
Well, on reflection, looking back now from the perspective now, I think I should have reported it at that stage, but at the time it was a case of just rejecting that sort of an approach and saying this is the way we're going to do it. The way things have developed since then, I regret the fact that I didn't report it.
It's not too late?
Well, no, it's not too late, but I think it's more important that everyone understand why Clive Palmer is as antagonistic to our government as he is. He believed that he could buy our government. Our government is not for sale to him or for anybody else.
So you think it's corrupt behaviour, you regret not reporting it to the CMC or the police. So why not just do it now? If it's that simple, you could just do it now.
Well, whether it was corrupt or not is a case that the lawyers will argue about, and the words were oblique and as you would expect. So I don't have any problem with filing that report with the court.
Will you report it to the CMC though now?
Well, I don't see any point, but I'm happy to do that if somebody believes there is a point in doing it. As you indicated at the beginning, it was a conversation that he insisted be he and I, But
on your own back, you think this is possibly corrupt behaviour, allegedly corrupt behaviour, and you should have reported it, but you're waiting for somebody else to suggest to you that you should report it to the CMC.
Well, I don't think. I'm happy to report it if there is some purpose to it. But
they're a standing royal commission with the powers to look into corruption.
It's more important that people understand why Clive Palmer is as aggressive to our government as he is. It's important to understand why Clive Palmer has started his own political party because he couldn't inappropriately influence our government. He couldn't inappropriately influence the LNP that he'd supported up to that point.
Could I move on to power privatisation? Because at the same time as Queensland's unveiled its plan, New South Wales has done the same sort of thing. Premier Baird is going to sell the poles and wires. The acting National Party leader down there, Adrian Piccoli, has publicly opposed the sale. Were there any such feelings within the LNP up here?
It was a very difficult decision when we considered the options that were available to us, given the financial situation that we inherited from the Labor government. $85 billion worth of debt. The Treasurer has laid out the choices for the future for Queenslanders. Queenslanders have responded to those choices. We're very keen to make sure that we retain control of the electricity entities, and the model that we've developed is about making sure that 100% of the ownership of the shares remains with the people of Queensland. Does
that allay the concerns of regional MPs? I'm sure regional MPs would have been worried about those monopoly providers in the bush.
I think many of us are still worried about it, and we're not rushing into it, gleefully. We understand that we have to do something. There are some difficult choices, but this is the smartest choice to make, to have a situation where we retain 100% ownership of the shares, but are able to bring the private sector finance and the private sector expertise to those entities.
So what still worries you?
I think what worries everybody with privatisation, I think we have to make sure that the service levels remain, especially for rural and regional people. I think we've got to make sure that the level of service doesn't deteriorate over time. We have to make sure that the businesses are operated efficiently, and if we can bring a profit motive, a profit incentive to that, it will help to drive efficiencies within the business. But at the end of the day, we also have to do something about the $85 billion worth of debt that hangs over Queensland.
All right, Deputy Premier, thank you very much for joining 7:30 Queensland.
Thanks, Matt.
And shortly after that interview, Mr Seeney did refer the matter concerning Clive Palmer to the CMC.